Well, hello everyone. This is my Sparton 516, manufactured in 1935 for the 1936 model year. Purchased this off eBay a few months ago, and this is my winter project. I started to work on this last night, and here's a picture of the case. You can see what this looks like. Case is in pretty good shape. It's really, for its age, has actually held up very well. I think it's seen some abuse in its life, but after 80 years, it's still hanging in there. Anyway, I pulled this out last night, and I actually knew somebody was hacking in this at various points, and what I've actually found is that it's a history of replacement capacitors from different eras. You can really see 60s capacitors in there, and you can see some really not great repair jobs, but it looks like the bones of this radio are in pretty good shape. It's a little bit rusty, but not as terrible, and I'm sure I could clean it up. I'm not so worried about it. It's really no one really sees the case anyway. Once everything is put back together, the chassis is really not all that visible. Everything is really solid. I did check all the tubes on my ICO 666 tester, and they don't seem to be the strongest tubes, but I'm guessing they should be fine. The weakest one was the 42 audio tube, which was showing some leakage, but I'm sure it will be good enough to test the radio, and it might even just work, although it's probably on the list. I don't actually have any replacement parts or tube-wise for this, with the exception of the rectifier. The rectifier is an 80, and they substituted a 5Y3, and somewhere in history they changed the base so that it would work. I do have an 80 that I can put in there as well, but you know, it was a repair that was done a very long time ago. Anyhow, I'll flip this over and you can have a look underneath. I did a little preliminary work on it last night, just because I would like to be able to power it up on a Variac with the rectifier out and do a little bit of checking. I was checking the transformer with the fluke meter last night, and that looks like it's okay from what I could see there. So yeah, I think the bones are good, and honestly, most of the repairs that were done in here weren't terrible, but they replaced, let's see, here's the up in the upper corner here, and put a little light on it. You can see the old capacitors, the electrolytics. They were in a paper rather than a can, and they just took them out of the circuit. They were called for 2 4 microfarad capacitors, and whoever did this last hack job, they did put in the 10 microfarad, which is what I was going to do anyway, because the 4 microfarads were much harder to find, and I was thinking in the case of this radio it wouldn't make a whole heck of a lot of difference, at least from everything I've read. This is not the way I would have approached replacing those capacitors, but since they were already there and I left them in place, that's not how they actually looked when I flipped this thing over. There was no spaghetti tubing or shrink tubing, and the wires were only tacked on. They didn't make a little loop and tie them up really well. So I replaced one of the wires, 2 of the wires actually, just because the wire that they hooked to was not long enough, and it was just really a crappy looking job. If I had done this, I think what I would have done is put a terminal strip at the base of the old capacitor and hooked these things to it. I think it would have been a much nicer job. But I'm just be happy if I can power it up and get it to work, and I may actually go back and clean it up. Depending if I think it's would be better. But once these things are in here, nobody's going to touch them. So they replaced this capacitor that goes to the volume control, and it was also just hanging on by a prayer and a glob of solder. And then again, there was also no shrink tubing or spaghetti on it. This is these yellow capacitors coming to the tone control and also to the volume controller. I replaced them last night. They had these little beauties in here, if I can show them. I definitely believe those to be the wrong type of capacitor for an audio circuit, plus the fact that they're 0.01s at 100 volts, and the original radio called for 0.01s at 450 or 400 volts. These are 0.01s at 630. So I'm sure they were way under what they should have been, and maybe the radio worked, maybe it sounded, I don't know how it sounded, but they were the wrong ones. Also notice these guys here, these brown color capacitors. I think those are probably a keeper. I believe those are a fairly modern replacement, and I think those are stable. They certainly seem to be, from what I'm seeing, a good capacitor, but I could be wrong. But they'll get me going. I did do a little work on them. I also replaced this capacitor here. What was in there was this capacitor, slightly different size. I left the clamp just to hold things in place, and actually I think that's probably a good thing, because that capacitor would have just been floating around in there. But at any rate, I was pleasantly surprised. The power switch did not appear to work when I first played with the radio. There didn't seem to be any continuity. I took a chance and sprayed some contact cleaner in it and worked the switch a little bit. And lo and behold, last night when I was all said and done, I checked it again and it's working. Of course, this power cord is going to disappear. We're going to put a better one on. This is, whatever power cord this is really a light gauge. I think what I will probably end up doing is put something cloth and it's just to be more period correct. I do have a more period correct plug for this radio to just look a little better. The other thing I noticed when I was working on it is that the grommets on the tuning capacitor are pretty wore out, and it was a little wobbly. However, I don't see it being a real big deal. I kind of just wedged something in there for the moment to keep it from wobbling around. It really doesn't affect the operation so much because of the drive mechanism on this particular type of radio. They don't have any cord in there that you have to worry about. This is like kind of more of a direct drive that drives this tuning mechanism. It seems to be in really good shape. I took a few minutes last night and put a little bit of light tri-flow oil on some of the parts here, and I also took a little bit of white lithium grease and worked it in on the ball bearings to make it turn a little better. I also just wiped up the tuning capacitor to just check it out, and I didn't see any bent fins, any bent plates. Everything looked pretty good, but we'll see when I power it up. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to post another video when I finish this thing up and hopefully show it powered up. I'm I'm optimistic that it will actually receive something. Thanks for watching. Hey, have a good one. Bye-bye.